So what's been the magic in this journey? What's been the things that have made it happen? So you talked about a couple of beautiful starting points, individual conversations, individual people. But what else has made this happen over 5 years? What's contributed to the success, if we can use that word? Yeah.
So the team of people that I have, so everybody that's with me now, bar one person, has been there from the start of the journey, right? So. And there's a respect, but everybody, like, I've seen strengths from loads of different people, and they're now working in areas where their strength shines through. But they also get the fact that it's an evolving and an emerging organization, and I think that's really helpful, because they know that it's not always going to look this way. They know that it's, we're all figuring this out together. So the people that are around me have been so instrumental and have believed. And I think they believed in me, because obviously the work that we do works, and you can create a model and you can duplicate a model. But the value, the culture that is in there has been something that I'm really going to struggle to replicate if this does go somewhere else. So definitely the people, so the team that I have around me, but then also the board, but the people that I have in my life. So my wife is a therapist, and she's well positioned to be able to be married to me, right? Because she keeps the grounding. Because Sarah is the one that whenever I come home and I've been firefighting all day, and then I've just got another email about this other thing, that she'll be able to navigate that really well. So I've got good people around me. But I think being open and honest, and actually, creating things and having conversations around, like, I don't have all the answers. I have my experience, and this is what my experience has shown me. And I'm only doing what I know from my experience, okay? And not having all the right answers all the time. And the people at Derry and the northwest of Ireland have been so supportive, because doors have opened that I haven't pushed. But I think it's because we did it right. I think it's because we did it with, there was the element of professionalism, from my background. There was the lived experience, there was the accountability, there was the safety, there was the compassion, there was the hope element to this, which I think was really important, because, yes, unfortunately we do lose people along the way, but there's a hell of a lot more get recovery and actually do well.
So, and you make a really important point. I have observed that if we just have a group of people, and I don't really want to use that word just, but if there are people that have come together with a common recovery background, and they kind of grow in any way, and there isn't an element, so they're not a professional service by statutory definitions, but if there isn't an element of governance or professionalism, it becomes a really difficult space. They end up getting into difficult conversations with the police, or someone will immediately refer them to safeguarding the first day they're open, or they'll have had 2 deaths out of the 7. It just becomes too complicated. And you're obviously walking that tightrope, because it feels like a tightrope for me, and I've seen others walk it. How you're being true to yourselves, but also true or honest with the outside world at the same time. Yes,
there's things that we've had to do. So we've had to be very clear that we're not a young person service. Okay, so there was a point where we were trying to do everything right, and I think as part of our honesty and transparency, we need to recognize that, like, we either do everything by half, or we do what we do well, really well, and that meant saying no to things, which was really difficult. So being honest enough.
I've heard this before. Brilliant. Go on, carry on.
Being honest enough to say, do you know what? I could go into 15 schools. Like, it would be 15 hours out of my week. However, I could be here trying to strategize how we can actually meet the people that we need to meet, that we set up to meet, and do that better. That's really important. And also, we're not a crisis service, and this is really important. People will fall in and out of crisis. And I get that, and I understand that. And people tend to think when someone's in crisis, then they make the phone call and they'll send them down. We had to be really clear of where we sit. So we're a tier 2 service. We're not a tier 3. We might have nurses, but we're not a tier 3. Okay. And we're not a crisis service. And we'll advise you the same way as we would advise anybody else. So our referral pathway partners, we needed to be really clear. We're a recovery service. We're not a crisis service. We're not the crisis team of the Western Trust. So, you need to do your work there. If anybody in our community falls on the crisis, which they have done, then we support them. But we use the same pathways as anybody else would.
Yeah.
So it's about knowing who you are and knowing who you're not.
And
which is
being
really
good, and as you said, being good at what you do and sticking to that is really important. Yeah.
But there's almost a wee caveat on that, which is whenever you're trying to stay around, and sometimes you have to do things, and there's incentives and there's money. We do corporate work because we need to pay the bills. We need to find the money. We run employee assistance programs and wellbeing workshops, and because we have the skill sets within our team to be able to do it. So there are times where, things have to be done through necessity, but done at an exceptionally high standard, the same as everything else. And I think that's really important. I think people tend to think because you're in the community and voluntary sector that you have to run at the standard that maybe people have experienced. Like some of the community and voluntary sectors do such great work and create so many really good benchmarks for things. And I think having that standard is really important. Not just being a wee community voluntary sector organisation, but being really, really good in that that sphere, and be 100% about everything that you do.
Yeah, we have our friend Marcus. He operates. You'll see him on the video. So he does the Eternal Media, the film stuff, and he does both. He does some bits that are for free as part of his promotion and recovery communities that people are never going to pay him for, and he does high quality commercial value material for other people, and he makes films for government bodies and stuff, and they pay what they'd have to pay anybody else, and stick to it and be proud of it. Yes.
So there are a lot of really good things. I think for me, I see, and this is where the research part comes into this, and because we do a lot of different things with different research partners, and they always talk about sample sizes and results and numbers and stuff like that. Like, I get the pleasure of coming into a building where on a daily basis there's people that have run marathons since they've got recovery. They're doing triathlons. They've got their kids back from care. They're back at school. They're working, or they're now addiction recovery coaches with a professional accreditation to now support other people. That's the magic, and that's the stuff that's really difficult for people to see. And I get the pleasure of having that around me all the time. And there's something really nice about that. There's something really nice to see people on the journey. And I don't mean actually watching people, and not necessarily an easy watch sometimes. Sometimes people have to go through a lot of hardship and a lot of challenge when they're trying to find their feet. But to see people come out that other side is just, it's a beautiful thing to see. And I think whenever you're in your own story, you kind of forget that.
And the beauty, isn't it, when you're talking about starting to have a community of people as you have now, of course, and you're absolutely right to say some people have relapsed, and you've probably even lost one or two people who have died as well. And I know our recovery community has had both of those things. And we had someone die last week from our community who but as the community builds, those people that have also grown and gone on to do things also grows as a number. It doesn't become one or two people or 4 or 5 people. You can suddenly be in a room and then there's 10, 12 people or 15 people, and they've actually got kids back, they've got jobs, they've set up a business, they're doing their thing. They're finding their way again. And there's something really nice on that.